All right. Let's go ahead and keep the momentum rolling. So I'm going to go ahead and do the next Bible section. So it's going to be Ruth 3 and 4 plus 1 Samuel 1 through 7. So let's go ahead and hop in. JW Library. All right, let's go ahead and pop my headphones in. That way I can block out most of the background noise in the room. That way I could just focus. And then let's change the song. Let's do. No. No. It's missing all those. Let's do Halo music. One hour of epic Halo music by D.T. Jackson. Ruth, Chapter 3. Naomi, her mother-in-law, now said to her, "My daughter, should I not look for a home for you, so that it may go well with you? Is not Boaz our relative? He is the one whose young women you were with. Tonight he is winnowing barley at the threshing floor. So wash yourself and rub on some perfumed oil, then dress up and go down to the threshing floor. Do not make your presence known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, take note of the place where he lies down, then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what you should do." At that she replied, "All that you say to me I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did all that her mother-in-law had instructed her to do. Meanwhile, Boaz ate and drank and was feeling good at heart. Then he went to lie down at the end of the grain heap, after she quietly came and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man began to shiver, and he leaned forward and saw a woman lying at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" She replied, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread out your garment over your servant, for you are a repurchaser." At that he said, "May Jehovah bless you, my daughter. You have shown your loyal love more in this last instance than in the first instance, by not going after the young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, have no fear. I will do for you everything that you say, for everyone in the city knows that you are an excellent woman. While it is true that I am a repurchaser, there is a repurchaser more closely related than I am. Stay here tonight, and if he will repurchase you in the morning, fine, let him repurchase you. But if he does not want to repurchase you, then I will repurchase you myself, as surely as Jehovah lives. Lie down here until the morning." So she lay at his feet until the morning, and then got up before it was light enough for anyone to be recognized. Then he said, "Do not let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor." He also said, "Bring the cloak that you are wearing and hold it out." So she held it out, and he put 6 measures of barley in it and put it on her, after which she went into the city. She went her way to her mother-in-law, who now said, "How did it go for you, my daughter?" She told her everything that the man had done for her. She added, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley and said to me, 'Do not go empty-handed to your mother-in-law.'" At that she said, "Sit here, my daughter, until you learn how the matter will turn out, for the man will not rest until he settles the matter today." Ruth, chapter 4. Now Boaz went up to the city gate and sat there, and look, the repurchaser whom Boaz had mentioned passed by. At that Boaz said, "Come here and sit down, so-and-so." And he went over and sat down. Then Boaz took 10 of the city elders and said, "Sit down here," and they sat down. Boaz now said to the repurchaser, "Naomi, who has returned from the fields of Moab, must sell the plot of land that belonged to our brother Elimelech." So I thought I should disclose it to you and say, but in front of the inhabitants and the elders of my people, if you will repurchase it. But if you will not repurchase it, tell me so that I will know, for you have the claim to repurchase it, and I am next in line after you. He replied, I am willing to repurchase it. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth, the Moabite, Tess, the wife of the dead man, in order to restore the name of the dead man to his inheritance. To this the repurchaser said, I am unable to repurchase it, for I may ruin my own inheritance. Repurchase it for yourself with my right of repurchase, because I am not able to repurchase it. Now, this was the custom of former times in Israel concerning the right of repurchase and exchange to validate every sort of transaction. A man had to remove his sandal and give it to the other party, and this was the manner of confirming an agreement in Israel. So when the repurchaser said to Boaz, buy it for yourself, he removed his sandal. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, you are witness today that I am buying from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Chilion and Mahlon. I also acquire Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, as a wife to restore the name of the dead man to his inheritance, so that the name of the dead man will not be cut off from among his brothers and from the city gate of his home. You are witnesses today. At this, all the people who were in the city and the elders said, we are witnesses. May Jehovah grant the wife who is entering your house to be like Rachel and like Leah, both of whom built the house of Israel. May you prosper in Ephrathah and make a good name in Bethlehem. May your house become like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah through the offspring that Jehovah will give by this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. He had relations with her, and Jehovah let her conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Then the women said to Naomi, praised be Jehovah, who has not left you without a repurchaser today. May his name be proclaimed in Israel. He has restored your life and will sustain you in your old age, because he has been born to your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons. Naomi took the child and then held him to her bosom, and she cared for him. Then the neighbor women gave him a name. They said, a son has been born to Naomi, and they named him Obed. He is the father of Jesse, David's father. Now this is the family line of Perez. Perez became father to Hezron. Hezron became father to Ram. Ram became father to Amminadab. Amminadab became father to Nahshon. Nahshon became father to Salmon. Salmon became father to Boaz. Boaz became father to Obed. Obed became father to Jesse. And Jesse became father to David. And that's the end of Ruth 4. End of Book of Ruth. The first Samuel 1. Sorry, First Samuel 1. I'm going to pause it for a sec. All right. Okay. Now there was a man of Ramath Aim Zophim of the mountainous region of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah. Hold on one sec. I need to get my glasses. All right, much better. Let's get those anti-blues on. The son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. One was named Hannah, and the other was named Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. That man went up from his city year after year to worship and to sacrifice to Jehovah of armies in Shiloh. That is where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, served as priests to Jehovah. One day, when Elkanah offered a sacrifice, he gave portions to his wife Peninnah, as well as to all her sons and her daughters. But to Hannah he gave a special portion, because Hannah was the one he loved, but Jehovah had not given her children. Moreover, her rival wife taunted her relentlessly in order to upset her because Jehovah had not given her children. That is what she would do year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of Jehovah, her rival would taunt her so much that she would weep and not eat. But her husband Elkanah said to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat, and why are you sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? Then Hannah got up after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. At the time, Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the temple of Jehovah. Hannah was extremely bitter, and she began to pray to Jehovah and to weep uncontrollably. And she made this vow, O Jehovah of armies, if you look upon the affliction of your servant and remember me, and you do not forget your servant, and give to your servant a male child, I will give him to Jehovah all the days of his life, and no razor will touch his head. While she prayed for a long time before Jehovah, Eli was watching her mouth. Hannah was speaking within her heart, only her lips were trembling, but her voice was not heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. Eli said to her, How long will you stay drunk? Stop drinking your wine. At this Hannah answered, No, my lord, I am a woman under great stress. I have not drunk wine or anything alcoholic, but I am pouring out my soul before Jehovah. Do not take your servant for a worthless woman, for I have been speaking until now of my great anguish and distress. Then Eli answered, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your petition that you have asked of him. To this she said, Let your servant find favor in your eyes. And the woman went on her way and ate, and her face was no longer downcast. All right, hold on one second. All right. Then they got up early in the morning and bowed before Jehovah, after which they returned to the house in Ramah. Elkanah had sexual relations with his wife Hannah, and Jehovah gave attention to her. Within a year, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son and named him Samuel, because, as she said, it is from Jehovah that I have asked him. In time, Elkanah went up with all his household to offer the yearly sacrifice to Jehovah and to present his vow offering. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, As soon as the boy is weaned, I will bring him. Then he will appear before Jehovah and remain there from then on. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Do what you think is best. Stay at home until you wean him. May Jehovah carry out what you have said. So the woman stayed at home and nursed her son until she weaned him. As soon as she had weaned him, she took him up to Shiloh, along with a 3-year-old bull, 1 ephah of flour, and a large jar of wine. And she came to the house of Jehovah in Shiloh, and brought the young boy with her. Then they slaughtered the bull, and brought the boy to Eli. With that she said, Pardon me, my lord. As surely as you live, my lord, I am the woman who was standing with you in this place to pray to Jehovah. It was for this boy that I prayed, and Jehovah granted my petition that I asked of him. I in turn now lend him to Jehovah for all his days. He is lent to Jehovah. And he bowed down there before Jehovah. 1 Samuel 2. Then Hannah said in prayer, my heart rejoices in Jehovah. My horn is exalted by Jehovah. My mouth is opened wide against my enemies, for I rejoice in your acts of salvation. There was no one holy like Jehovah. There was no one but you, and there is no rock like our God. Do not keep speaking with haughtiness. Let nothing arrogant come from your mouth. For Jehovah is a God of knowledge, and by him deeds are rightly evaluated. The bows of mighty men are shattered, but those who are stumbling are given strength. The well-fed must hire themselves out for bread, but the hungry hunger no more. The barren has given birth to 7, but she who had many sons has become desolate. Jehovah kills and he preserves life. He brings down the grave and he raises up. Jehovah impoverishes and he enriches. He abases and he exalts. He raises the lowly one from the dust. He lifts up the poor from the ash heap to make them sit with princes, giving them a seat of honor. To Jehovah belong earth's supports, and he places the productive land upon them. He guards the steps of his loyal ones, but the wicked will be silenced in darkness, for not by power does a man prevail. Jehovah will shatter those fighting against him. He will thunder against them from the heavens. Jehovah will judge to the ends of the earth. He will give power to his king. And exalt the horn of his anointed one. Then Elkanah went to his house in Ramah, and the boy became a minister of Jehovah before Eli the priest. Now the sons of Eli were wicked men. They had no regard for Jehovah. This is what they did with the due right of the priests from the people. Whenever any man was offering a sacrifice, an attendant of the priest came with a three-pronged fork in his hand when the meat was boiling, and he would thrust it into the basin, the two-handled cooking pot, the cauldron, or the one-handed cooking pot. Whatever the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. That is what they would do in Shiloh to all the Israelites coming there. Also, even before the man sacrificing could make the fat smoke, an attendant of the priest would come and say to him, "Give the priest meat to roast. He will not take boiled meat from you, only raw meat." When the man would say to him, "Let them first be sure to make the fat smoke, then take for yourself whatever you desire," he would say, "No, give it to me now. If not, I will take it by force." Thus the sin of the attendants came to be very great before Jehovah, for the men treated the offering of Jehovah with disrespect. Now Samuel was ministering before Jehovah, wearing a linen ephod, though he was just a boy. Also his mother would make for him a little sleeveless coat, and she brought it up for him year after year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, "May Jehovah grant you a child from this wife in place of the one who was lent to Jehovah." And they went back home. Jehovah turned his attention to Hannah so that she could conceive, and she gave birth to 3 more sons and 2 daughters. And the boy Samuel continued growing up before Jehovah. Now Eli was very old, but he had heard about everything that his sons were doing to all Israel and how they would lie down with the women who served at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He used to say to them, "Why do you keep doing things like this? Like these? For the things I am hearing about you from all the people are bad. No, my sons, the report that I hear circulating among the people of Jehovah is not good. If a man should sin against another man, someone may appeal to Jehovah for him, but if a man should sin against Jehovah, who can pray for him?" But they refused to listen to their father, for Jehovah had determined to put them to death. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel kept growing in stature and in favor both with Jehovah and with the people. A man of God came to Eli and said to him, "This is what Jehovah says. Did I not plainly reveal myself to your father's house while they were in Egypt as slaves to the house of Pharaoh? And he was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel to serve as my priest and to go up on my altar to make sacrifices, to offer incense, and to bear an ephod before me. And I gave to my house of your forefather all the offerings made by fire of the Israelites. Why do you men scorn my sacrifice and my offering that I have commanded in my place of dwelling? Why do you keep honoring your sons more than me by fattening yourselves from the best portions of every offering of my people Israel? That is why the word of Jehovah, the God of Israel, is, I indeed say that your house and the house of your forefather would always walk before me. But now Jehovah declares, it is unthinkable on my part, because those honoring me I will honor, but those despising me will be treated with contempt. Look, days are coming when I will cut off your strength and that of your father's house, so that no man in your house will live to old age. And you will look upon a trial in my dwelling, amid all the good that is done into Israel, and never again will there be an old man in your house. The man of yours whom I do not cut off from serving at my altar will cause your eyes to fail and bring you grief. But the greater number of your house will die by the sword of men. And what happens to your 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, will be the sign for you. On one day both of them will die. Then I will raise up for myself a faithful priest. He will act in harmony with what is my heart's desire, and I will build for him a lasting house. And he will walk before my anointed one always. Anyone who remains in your house will come and bow down to him for the payment of money and a loaf of bread, and will say, assign me, please, to one of the priestly offices to eat a piece of bread. 1 Samuel 3. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel was ministering to Jehovah before Eli, but word from Jehovah had become rare in those days. Visions were not widespread. One day Eli was lying down in his usual place, and his eyes had grown dim. He was not able to see. The lamp of God had not yet been extinguished, and Samuel was lying in the temple of Jehovah, where the ark of God was. Jehovah then called Samuel. He answered, Here I am. He ran to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. But he said, I did not call. Lie down again. So he went and lay down. Jehovah called once again, Samuel. At this, Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. But he said, I did not call, my son. Lie down again. Now Samuel had not yet come to know Jehovah, and the word of Jehovah had not yet been revealed to him. So Jehovah called again a third time, Samuel. At that he got up and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called for me. Eli then realized that it was Jehovah who was calling the boy. So Eli said to Samuel, Go lie down, and if he calls you, you should say, Speak, Jehovah, for your servant is listening. And Samuel went and lay down in his place. Jehovah came and stood there, and he called as the other times, Samuel, Samuel. At this Samuel said, Speak, for your servant is listening. Jehovah said to Samuel, Look, I am doing something in Israel that will make both ears of anyone who hears it about it tingle. On that day I will carry out toward Eli all that I said about his house, from start to finish. You must tell them that I am bringing a lasting judgment on his house for the error that he is known about. For his sons are cursing God, but he has not rebuked them. That is why I have sworn to the house of Eli, the error of the house of Eli will never be atoned for by sacrifices or by offerings. Samuel lay down until the morning. Then he opened the doors of Jehovah's house. Samuel was afraid to tell Eli the vision, but Eli called for Samuel, Samuel, my son. At this he said, Here I am. He asked, What message did he speak to you? Please do not hide it from me. May God do so to you, and add it if you hide from me a single word of all that he said to you. So Samuel told him everything, and he did not hide anything from him. Eli said, It is Jehovah. Let him do what is good in his eyes. Samuel continued growing up, and Jehovah himself was with him, and he did not let any of his words go unfulfilled. All Israel from Dan to Beersheba became aware that Samuel had been confirmed as Jehovah's prophet, and Jehovah continued to appear in Shiloh, for Jehovah revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of Jehovah. 1 Samuel 4. And the word of Samuel went out to all Israel. Then Israel went out to meet the Philistines in battle. They camped beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines were encamped at Aphek. The Philistines drew up in battle formation to meet Israel, but the battle went badly, and Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who struck down about 4,000 men from the battle line in the fields. When the people returned to the camp, the elders of Israel said, Why did Jehovah allow us to be defeated today by the Philistines? Let us take the ark of Jehovah's covenant with us from Shiloh, so that it may be with us and save us from the hand of our enemies. So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they carried from the ark of the covenant of Jehovah of armies, who sits enthroned above the cherubs. The two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were also there with the ark of the covenant of the true God. As soon as the ark of the covenant of Jehovah came into the camp, all the Israelites broke out into loud shouting, so that the earth shook. When the Philistines heard the sound of the shouting, they said, Why is there such loud shouting in the camp of the Hebrews? Finally they learned that the ark of Jehovah had come into the camp. The Philistines became afraid, for they said, God has come into the camp. Hold on one sec. I'm going to pause it for a minute. Okay. So they said, Too bad for us, for nothing like this has ever happened before. Too bad for us. Who will save us from the hand of this majestic God? This is the God who struck Egypt with every sort of slaughter in the wilderness. Be courageous and act like men, you Philistines, so that you may not serve the Hebrews just as they have served you. Act like men and fight. So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and each one fled to his tent. The slaughter was very great. On Israel's side, 30,000 foot soldiers fell. Moreover, the ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. A man of Benjamin ran from the battle line and arrived at Shiloh on that day, with his garments ripped apart and dirt on his head. When the man arrived, Eli was sitting on the seat by the roadside, watching, because his heart was trembling over the ark of the true God. The man went into the city to report the news, and the whole city began crying out. When Eli heard the sound of the outcry, he asked, "What does this sound of turmoil mean?" The same man hurried in and reported the news to Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes stared straight ahead, and he could not see. Then the man said to Eli, "I am the one who came from the battle line. Just today I fled from the battle line." At this he asked, "What happened, my son?" So the bearer of the news related, "Israel has fled from the Philistines, and there was a great defeat among the people. Also, your own two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, have died, and the ark of the true God has been captured." At the moment he mentioned the ark of the true God, Eli fell backward from his seat beside the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for he was old and heavy. He had judged Israel for 40 years. His daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and close to giving birth. When she heard the report that the ark of the true God had been captured, and that her father-in-law and her husband had died, she doubled over and unexpectedly went into labor and gave birth. As she was dying, the women standing by her said, Do not be afraid, for you have given birth to a son." She did not answer and did not pay attention to it, but she named the boy Ichabod, saying, "Glory has gone away from Israel into exile," referring to the capture of the ark of the true God and what happened to her father-in-law and her husband. She said, "Glory has gone away from Israel into exile, because the ark of the true God has been captured." 1 Samuel 5. When the Philistines captured the ark of the true God, they brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. The Philistines took the ark of the true God and brought it into the house of Dagon and set it beside Dagon. When the Ashdodites got up early the next day, there was Dagon fallen face down on the ground before the ark of Jehovah. So they took Dagon and returned him to his place. When they got up early in the morning on the following day, there was Dagon fallen face down on the ground before the ark of Jehovah. The head of Dagon and the palms of both of his hands were cut off and lying on the threshold. Only the fish part had been left intact. That is why to this day the priests of Dagon and all those who enter the house of Dagon do not walk on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod. The hand of Jehovah was heavy against the Ashdodites, and he devastated them by striking Ashdod and its territories with piles. Then the men of Ashdod saw what was happening. They said, "Do not let the ark of the God of Israel remain with us, for his hand has dealt harshly with us and our god Dagon." So they went for God and gathered all the lords of the Philistines and asked them, what should we do with the ark of the God of Israel?" They replied, "Let the ark of the God of Israel be moved to Gath." So they moved the ark of the God of Israel there. After they moved it there, the hand of Jehovah came against the city, bringing great panic. He struck the men of the city from small to great, and piles broke out on them. So they sent to the ark of the true God to Ekron. But as soon as the ark of the true God came to Ekron, the Ekronites began to cry out, "They have brought the ark of God to Israel, to us, to put us and our people to death." Then they sent for and gathered all the lords of the Philistines and said, "Send the ark of the God of Israel away. Let it return to its place so that we and our people may not be put to death." For the terror of death had spread throughout the whole city. The hand of the true God had been very heavy there, and the men who did not die had been struck with piles, and the city's cry for help ascended to the heavens. 1 Samuel 6. The ark of Jehovah was in Philistine territory for 7 months. The Philistines called the priests and the diviners and asked, "What should we do with the ark of Jehovah? Let us know how we should send it back to its place." They replied, "If you send the ark of the covenant of Jehovah, the God of Israel, away, do not send it back without an offering. You should by all means return to him a guilt offering. Only then will you be healed, and it will be made known to you while his hand has not turned away from you. So they asked, what guilt offering should we send to him? They said, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, send 5 golden piles and 5 golden mice. For the same scourge has afflicted every one of you and your lords. You should make images of your piles and images of your mice that are bringing the land to ruin. And you should honor the God of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten the weight of his hand that is on you and your God and your land. Why should you harden your heart as Egypt and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? When he dealt harshly with them, they had to send Israel away, and they departed. Now prepare a new wagon and 2 cows that have calves and have never been under a yoke. Then hitch the cows to the wagon, but take their calves back home, away from them. Take the ark of Jehovah and place it on the wagon, and put the golden articles that are sending to him as a guilt offering in a box next to it. Then send it on its way, and watch. If it goes up the road to Beth Shemesh, to its own territory, then he is the one who has done this great evil to us. But if not, we will know that it was not his hand that struck us. It happened to us by coincidence. The men did accordingly. They took 2 cows that had calves and hitched them to the wagon, and the calves that they penned up at home. Then they put the ark of Jehovah on the wagon, as well as the box containing the golden mice and the images of their piles. And the cows went straight ahead of the road to Beth Shemesh. They stayed on the one highway, moving as they went. They did not turn either to the right or to the left. All the while, the lords of the Philistines were walking behind them as far as the boundary of Beth Shemesh. The people of Beth Shemesh were reaping the wheat harvest in the valley plain. When they raised their eyes and saw the ark, they were overjoyed at seeing it. The wagon came into the field of Joshua the Bethshemite and stopped there near a large stone. So they chopped up the wood of the wagon, and they offered the cows as a burnt offering to Jehovah. The Levites took down the ark of Jehovah and the box that was in it, which contained the golden articles, and they put them on the large stone. The men of Bethshemesh offered the burnt offerings and made sacrifices on that day to Jehovah. When the 5 lords of the Philistines saw it, they returned to Ekron on that day. Now these are the golden piles that the Philistines sent as a guilt offering to Jehovah, 1 for Ashdod, 1 for Gaza, 1 for Ashkelon, 1 for Gath, and 1 for Ekron. And the number of the golden mice corresponded to the number of all the cities of the Philistines that belonged to the 5 lords, both the fortified cities and the villages in the open country. And the large stone upon which they rested, the ark of Jehovah, serves as a witness down to this day in the field of Joshua the Bethshemite. The God struck down the men of Beth Shemesh because they had looked upon the ark of Jehovah. He struck down 50,070 among the people, and the people began mourning because Jehovah had struck them down with a great slaughter. The men of Beth Shemesh asked, who will be able to stand before Jehovah, this holy God, and to whom will he go away from us? So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the ark of Jehovah. Come down and take it up with you. 1 Samuel 7. So the men of Kiriath Jearim came and took the ark of the covenant up into the house of Abinadab on the hill, and they sanctified his son Eleazar to guard the ark of Jehovah. A long time elapsed, 20 years in all, from the day of the ark's coming to Kiriath Jearim, and all the house of Israel began to seek after Jehovah. Samuel then said to all the house of Israel, if you are returning to Jehovah with all your heart, put away the foreign gods and the Ashtaroth images from among you, and direct your heart unswervingly to Jehovah, and serve only him, and he will rescue you from the hands of the Philistines. At that, the Israelites got rid of the Baals and the Ashtaroth images and served only Jehovah. Then Samuel said, gather all Israel together at Mizpah, and I will pray to Jehovah in your behalf. So they gathered together at Mizpah, and they drew water and poured it out before Jehovah, and kept a fast on that day. There they said, "We have sinned against Jehovah." And Samuel began serving as judge over the Israelites in Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that the Israelites had gathered together at Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. When the Israelites heard about it, they were afraid because of the Philistines. So the Israelites said to Samuel, "Do not stop calling to Jehovah our God to help us and to save us from the hand of the Philistines." Then Samuel took a suckling lamb and offered it up as a whole burnt offering to Jehovah. And Samuel called to Jehovah for help in behalf of Israel, and Jehovah answered him. As Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines advanced for battle against Israel. Jehovah now caused it to thunder loudly on that day against the Philistines, and he threw them into confusion. They were defeated before Israel. At that, the men of Israel went out from Mizpah and pursued the Philistines, striking them down as far south as Bethkar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it between Mizpah and Jeshanah and named it Ebenezer. For he said, "Until now, Jehovah has helped us." Sorry. Thus the Philistines were subdued, and they did not come again into the territory of Israel. And the hand of Jehovah continued against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. Also the cities that the Philistines had taken from Israel were returned to Israel, from Ekron to Gath, and Israel recovered their territory from the hands of the Philistines. There was also peace between Israel and the Amorites. Samuel kept on judging Israel throughout his life. Each year he traveled in a circuit to Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and he judged Israel in all these places. But he would return to Ramah because his house was there, and there he also judged Israel. He built an altar there to Jehovah. End of AV 27.